What's up guys, it's Rest, and in today's video I wanted to go over one of my all-time favorite builds for Amara. It is definitely one of her best builds in the game, and it is one of the most popular builds on my channel, and that is her Hyperion cat build. This build is involved all around using Hyperion SMGs and just shredding every enemy in the game. Now, if you don't know, with the recent scaling, some of the older weapons are now actually pretty good in the game, and some of these weapons actually got buffed as well, and that change alone is what brought this build back, and it is better than it ever was. But with all that being said, my builds are located in my Discord channel if you would like to download them. The link for the Discord will be in the description. If you download the build, learn something new, or enjoy the video in any way, remember to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out and I truly appreciate it. But with all that being said, let's get right into the build. Alright, so as you see, we're running 3 hyper focuses right here. This is all Hyperion SMGs, and we're also going to be running one handsome jackhammer, which actually did get buffed. And the handsome jackhammer is a very fun weapon to use, which I will get into later. But for the hyper focus, if you don't know what it does, essentially when you shoot, it's going to split into these projectiles, which can be buffed with all of Amara's ASC, anoints, or just her infusion skills. So you're going to have more projectiles to do more damage. But on the first one, we have a cryo one, or an axe skill in the next 2 magazines. I will have an additional 100% bonus radiation damage. Now it's 100% because I actually did buff the ASC anoints, which is going to make what this build was already even better. So now we're getting 100% more damage with this hyper focus, which is really, really good. Cryo is going to be very good against armor, and the radiation is going to be very good against shields. Then next, I have a hyper focus with on-axe skill and weapon damage increased by 100% for a short time, and this is the corrosive variant. This is going to be really good for things like the Molly 1 takedown, or just any armor target. You're just going to be able to just shred through them, and just doing the same amount of damage. The axe skill with 100% weapon damage is a very good anointing. It still stands up to this day, even with all the other anointings in the game, and this is a very fun one to use. But then I have a hyper focus with Incendiary, where after you use Face Slam, you get 300% more weapon damage. This is your Grave Ward killer, Shadow Farm Grave Ward. This one is going to be very, very good for that. You just use your Face Slam, and you can just go to town on Grave Ward. It melts just as good as it did back in the day, and it is super, super fun to use. And now the jackhammer right here, this is really good. As you see, we have Phase Cast Anoints, we get 250% more damage after you use that. But you can essentially just keep shooting and reloading the gun over and over again, and the way it works, the jackhammer is just going to keep jumping up and down, and they actually do a lot of damage. They actually did just buff the damage of this thing. It was already pretty good before, but they went and buffed it, kind of like back in the day when I made the hyper focus build, and it was already really good, but then for some reason they went and buffed the hyper focus, so it made it even better than it was. It's kind of the same way with this. The jackhammer is now just going to be able to you can just chunk them and just slowly watch your enemies die. It's very, very fun, and I would definitely recommend using this. But now for shields, I have a Transformer. Transformer is a very good defensive shield. You basically just resistant to shock 100%. You're actually going to be regenerating your shields if you take shock damage, and you have a 40% chance to absorb bullets and put them back in the magazine, which is not the greatest, but it is taking reduced damage. And as you see, we have all 4 ASC anoints on them, which is very, very good. So whatever you're getting yourself into, you can just swap out whatever you're doing. But then I have its Piss Grenade right here. You can kind of just use whatever grenade you want to use. I like this just to apply a debuff to people, and you can take side effects off of you. But I have all 4 with all the ASC anoints on them. So, like I said, whatever you get into, you can just swap the Transformer and it spits out to whatever you need. But then I have a Phase Archer right here. This is the bread and butter of this build. If you don't know what the Phase Archer does, essentially you're going to get max rush stacks every time you use your action skill. And those max rush stacks are also going to give you more cooldown rate and weapon damage. Plus you're also getting +5 stacks. But on here we have 25% weapon damage, 31% SMG damage, and 45% Hyperion critical hit damage. Obviously all these work really, really well with all these weapons. Critical hit damage is going to buff the hyper focus like crazy, SMG damage, and weapon damage. Insanely good class mod. This is a literal god roll for this build, and it is what is going to make this build go to the next level. If you don't have this class mod, it will still work. This build just makes it absolutely disgusting. Now for the artifact, I have a problem of knowledge with 12% fire rate and 50% magazine size. Essentially, basically you just shoot this and you're going to get more damage, and once you get max stacks of it, you just get an insane amount of damage. It works really well with something like an SMG, because obviously SMGs just inherently shoot a lot of bullets really fast. So we're going to have that damage buff proc really, really quick, and just go to town on everything. This is not only good for bossing, it's really good for mobbing as well, and it will not let you down. It's one of the best artifacts in the game. But now getting into the skill tree, I'm going to start at Fist of Elements. we're putting 5 points in animal, which is going to get buffed to 7, so we can buff our status effect damage, duration, axe skill damage. This is essentially just to get down to the bottom. I'm not really using this. Like, the status effect is like okay, but the guns already don't do that much status effect damage as it is, but it's there. And we're also not even going to be running Spiritual Driver to keep the shock on us longer, so it helps, but it's not the greatest. But then 3 points of steady hands to get 32% more handling, 31% more accuracy. This is also no skill to get down to the bottom, but having the handling accuracy is very good, because something like SMGs, you're obviously going to be moving around the map really quick, since they're lighter weapons, and the handling just makes them very, very fun to use. But now I have 1 point in infusion, because I don't want to use infusion to change our elements of our guns, but this is going to give us another projectile to make our hyper focuses do even more damage. And that paired with our different ASEs, we're just going to have a lot of projectiles going everywhere and destroying everything. But now 1 point wildfire, again, this is to get down to the bottom. A lot of these skills are just to get down to the bottom, other than infusion and maybe steady hands. But then 5 points of tempest, this is definitely not one to get down to the bottom. 30% more elemental damage, 20% more shock damage. Really, really good. It's going to buff all our elemental damage. We're already doing a lot of element damage because we're Amara, and you just destroy everything. Now this is going to pair really well with one of our guardian rank perks, which is actually Harmageddon. So now every time we apply a status effect to an enemy, we're going to be doing more damage, which I guess in return actually will help out with Anima, because that status is going to last longer, which will give us more damage for a longer time. But then I have 1 point in dread, so we get more gun damage every time we phase grasp an enemy, and when we kill an enemy that phase grasp, that gun is reloaded. Now, if you don't know, we're going to run Ties That Bind. This is one of Amara's best action skills. It is still one of the greatest ad clearing utilities in the game, and we're going to be pairing that with Stillness of Mind, so all the enemies get locked in the air, and it's going to make it really, really easy to kill all of them. But then 1 point Deep Well, so we can buff our magazine size by 20%. This is going to help all our hyper focuses out, because you see they all have elements on them. So just more magazine size is always very good for any build. But then 3 points Indiscriminate, so all our bullets can ricochet. This is going to be really, really good, again, for something like the hyper focus. You're going to have all these projectiles coming out, and they're going to just ricochet everywhere, and you're just going to kill everything. But then 5 points Sustainment, so every time we do elemental damage with our weapons, we're getting 20% lifesteal, which is an insane amount of lifesteal. And the amount of damage we're going to be doing with our hyper focuses, we're always going to be healing. The Transformers are already a tanky shield, so we don't really have to worry about dying at all with this build. And then finally 1 point Forceful Expression. So we're getting 18% bonus damage to what, on top of whatever we're already doing. And that damage is going to be based on whatever our actual element is, which I'm just going to be running Shock. You can kind of just change it to whatever you want to do, whatever you're going against. But this is also going to add another projectile to the hyper focus. So we're getting what it already normally does, +1 right here, +1 right here, and +1 right here, and another one right here. It is very, very, very good. And you're just going to be able to tear through so many enemies in the game. Next skill tree, you have 3 points of personal space. This is a very, very good skill for Amara just for 3 points. So what this does, you get more damage the closer you are to an enemy. The range of this is extremely large, so you're always going to be doing this extra damage pretty much all the time. And for 3 points, having this insane amount of extra damage paired on top of what all our other skills are doing is very, very good. Now, I will mention, we do have 3 points of clarity because of our class mod. Since we're using our axe skill a lot, this is actually going to be kind of useful. So we're going to be getting 3% of our missing health regenerated on top of what Sustainment's already doing. And then when we use axe, we're getting 6% of that missing health back. It's not the greatest, but it does help out a little bit. But then 5 points of do harm, so we're going to be buffing our axe skill damage based on our rush axe that we have. And if you don't know, do harm actually does work with Ties That Bind. So the link target is going to straight up just get obliterated with do harm. As you see, we're getting 5.9% more of that damage per rush stack, and in total with all our skills, we're going to be getting 25 rush stacks, which if you do the math, it's just an absurd amount of damage. But then 3 points of fast hands, so you get more reload speed, weapon swap speed, which is really good. The most speed does not matter, but having the reload speed on something like the jackhammer to be able to just spam the SMG over and over again is really good. And also on things like the hyper focus, just reloading is always nice. Then 1 point Violent Tapestry, so we can keep our rush stacks up easier between killing people and just applying status effects, which is going to be pretty easy to do. On Amara, you just always are going to have rush stacks constantly. Within 3 points of Transcend, so every time you axe skill, we're getting more accuracy and critical hit damage. Very good at skill for Amara, and you can just straight up tear through enemies with this. Then 3 points in Alacrity, so we're getting even more reload speed based on our rush stacks we have. Again, just like fast hands, it's really good for something like the jackhammer, even for the hyper focuses. And you can just spam them everywhere and kill everything. But then 1 point in ascendant, so we can buff our Citadel Summon, so targets get locked in the air a little longer, so we can for sure kill them. Then 3 points of Lay Bare, so every time our Axial hits an enemy, everybody's going to do 25% more damage to them. So when those linked targets actually attach to those enemies and they go up in the air and get locked with phase lock, all those enemies are actually going to take 25% more increased damage from everybody, and it is very, very good. But then 3 points of Wrath, we get 20% more damage, 20% more after you pop an action skill. Again, just another damage-based skill for Amara, always nice to take. But then 3 points in Awakening, so we can buff things like do harm to do even more damage. And Violent Tapestry is also going to let us have more of a status effect chance. Awakening gives you 30% more rush stack effectiveness if you didn't know. So finally, 1 point Avatar, so we can use Axial twice for cooldown, and we get 10 more rush stacks. Having 2 Phase Grasp with Taz Divine just lets you obliterate so many adds in the game. Having those rush stacks to get more reload speed, more damage to do harm, more status effect chance, which, like I said, is in return going to let you keep Harmageddon up since you're applying status effects. It's just going to allow you to just straight up destroy everything in the game, and this build is insanely strong and insanely fun. So that is the Hyperion Cat Amara build. It is one of the best builds in the game for Amara. This build pretty much already wrecks everything. It can do the Molly 1 takedown. It can do just any content you want to do on Mayhem 10, and it can do it with ease. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this build is located in my Discord channel if you would like to download it. The link for the Discord is in the description, and if you're down to build, enjoy the video, I found it helpful in any way, remember to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out, and I truly appreciate it. But that's going to do it all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.